I started penciling out this very lengthy trip of 9 parks. I think one or two times I may have mentioned it to Eric, and he said, "Yeah, I'm in. I want to do that." And my own thoughts on that were, how?
I don't think he had a whole lot of confidence in me that I was going to be able to finish this trip. And he never expressed that to me. He never articulated that.
After having the 2 other trips with him and watched him, struggle with his health and his ability to sustain even those trips, I really was skeptical that this was going to work out. I started out with this. This is the grand culmination of these trips that I have done and these plans that I have made, and it's my trip. And Eric's joining me on my trip. Somewhere along in Colorado, it became Eric's trip. That was a huge shift for me, and a really cool shift for me. I was able to really stop treating this as something that was all mine, and this goal was something that was now a shared goal, and this whole aspiration that Eric had to do more, and my sort of commitment to him now a year or two old to help him do that. This is all part of the plan, right? This is all part of what was coming together, and Eric's joy and Eric's remarks about what we're seeing and what we're doing were wins for me, right? It wasn't just ticking off parks. It was seeing him wake up the next day and say, let's keep going. That was a really major shift for me. So the last half of this trip has been all about supporting Eric on his journey. And that's created a new journey for me, which has been really cool, very rewarding for me, and very meaningful for me.
He was always like, "Oh, you ready to go again?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's go." So I appreciate that about him. He never negated any direction I had or any gumption I had to get back on the bike and go. Rocky Mountain National Park was also extraordinary, and I think maybe we saw about a fifth of it, because we went up we had a pass that we had to get for about every park that we went through that put us into a specific place. What was really nice was because we were on our bikes and parking was limited at Bear Lake, there was no traffic. There was just us and the shuttle buses, basically, because there's plenty of motorcycle parking there. So the signs would say, well, there's no parking, get on the shuttle. So people were riding the shuttle while we had the ability to ride our bikes up. So from Rocky Mountain, then we made our way into up to the Grand Teton National Park. And we went over the Teton Bridger Pass that drops you down on the east side of the main valley that the Tetons are in. And I don't know what it is about that mountain range, more than anything else I've ever seen, that takes my breath away and makes me emotional in a way to go through and see that.
I just felt like every park we went to and every campsite we woke up on just felt better than the next one, because I think it just meant that it wasn't over yet, and there was still more to come.
So we came in the south part of the park, and the plan was to go around Yellowstone Lake, and then from there go north and hook up onto the Beartooth Highway and take that into Red Lodge, Montana. And we were there on the Sunday that they had the flash flooding. So we stopped at the Yellowstone Lodge there and got a cup of coffee and just kind of warmed up a bit. And at that point, we looked at the radar and realized that the Beartooth Highway was getting smashed as well. And that, that would be not fun for us because it was snowing up there at that point. So we decided to exit the park through the northeastern side. So we would go around the lake and then we come up and over the part of the park that got burned. And then we hit this kind of ledge road that takes us then out of the park, out of the canyon. All the time looking at the river to the side of us. This was becoming more of a race against Mother Nature than it was just, a national park tour. So from there we made our way to Red Lodge, Montana, and we stayed at the Bear something, I can't remember the name of it, but the lodge is on the main road there, and on the other side of the road is the river. And at the time you could smell it, and it was obviously higher than it had ever been because it was taking out all kinds of things on both sides of the shore. So I told Brian, I said, I'll bet you we're going to be evacuated come morning time. And sure enough, 7 o'clock in the morning, Brian's pounding on my door. They're evacuating us. Let's get out of here. Let's pack it up. And the river had risen at least 3 feet from the night before to that morning. For it had taken out half the road that was there, and we needed to get out of there because the power lines were twanging back and forth, and we would have been stuck there if we didn't, pack it up and get on our way.
We've hit a wall, and a lot of things happened, I think, all at once to change and adjust this trip.
And that was also at the time when I made the determination that I was probably done. We still had another third of the trip to do. Brian still had, some parks to visit, and I did too. I wanted to see Devil's Tower. I wanted to go to the Badlands. I obviously wanted to see Mount Rushmore, those kinds of things. But I had hit a wall, and I just felt that all I could possibly do that was productive was sleep. Everything was just gone. And it's hard to explain what that feels like. There's just no desire to do anything. It's not just a matter of energy, it's a matter of willpower. And the only willpower I had left went right to here, as far as the throttle was concerned, to keep me going. So we left Red Lodge. We went the highway around, and then not as in road highway, but the higher ground way around. We must have crossed the Clark, I think, a half a dozen times coming through, and every bridge looked like it was just on the verge of being compromised by the river, by what was going on. So we made it to Cody, stayed there one more night, and the next morning we beelined it all the way back here to Bountiful. And there's a pattern there, obviously, I'm recognizing, because the same thing happened with Addie and I on the Pacific Northwest tour. The same thing happened previously with me and Brian. We tried to do a trip to the Grand Canyon, and my health prevented that from coming to fruition. I blame the weather, but it was really me.
I think Eric's asked whether this was his intrusion into the plan, and because of his health now we're going to have to change course, and we talked a lot about, should I go alone and keep going, and should he come back alone, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't keep on my trip knowing that Eric is going to struggle to get back home and deal with this. It wasn't my trip anymore. And at the same time, the weather conspired to make it easier to make that decision and not feel guilty for either one of us to say, yeah, I think for both of us, the right thing to do is to turn the trip around. So I know Eric feels like this is something that maybe helped cause me to fall short of my goals. But my goals changed so materially in this whole thing, and we got to a point when the trip where the weather was, it was hard on me, and I know it was really, really hard on Eric. And I think he finally got to the point where his body was not going to allow him to keep driving forward. And as I looked at the rest of the trip together, notwithstanding my wanting to make sure he gets home safely, I wasn't really enthusiastic about going into more floods and more, snow and wind and potential heat. And it was time. It was time. And all the signs kind of lit up brightly for us.
I am so grateful to Brian and for all the work that he put into this. Mark helped out too as far as planning and getting things, and I was heartbroken that he wasn't able to join us. And then to have Ed come along and him knowing that this wasn't going to be an easy thing to do, not from a standpoint of riding a motorcycle, but from a standpoint of just being together. This whole thing casts a different light on the experiences that we have. And for me, it's like, is this the last time I'll see the Grand Tetons? Will I ever get back to Mesa Verde? And I can't think that way, because again, that projects me into the future. And that negates what the hell it was I was trying to do on the motorcycle, to begin with.